Welcome, listeners. Welcome back to the Man Cave. Repeat listeners, I know there's some secret admirers out there. Some of the folks that we know are avid, listeners to us out there. Maybe some new listeners, kind of first timers. Welcome. So happy that you're here. Just always feel just a true sense of gratitude for, I guess, anybody taking time in their day to create a space to learn and listen and hopefully gain some insight on areas in your own life where you can grow, reflect, just kind of experience, two men from two different places in the world, living our lives and sharing our dreams and sharing our passions and sharing our hearts, sharing our humor, sharing all parts about us. And I think that's what we so much appreciate about this opportunity for us to speak on a weekly basis. We had a discussion, probably a month back. I forget what the topic was that night, but we started having a kind of off-topic conversation around the heart and what the heart, represents, or how we experience our heart, and what maybe some more of our feelings are located. Those kind of as we experience our emotions. Is it something that kind of feels like it is emitted from our heart? Is it something in our head? Is it our mind? Very fascinating. And then I don't think there's any right answer. I think there's just an opportunity for Cedric and I to kind of look into that and discuss it. But before we do that, I want to check in with Mr. C and see how things are going with him.
What up? What up, man? I appreciate y'all joining us, man. Repeat listeners, welcome back. New ones, welcome. And those of you that's listening and watching and not saying nothing, what's up to y'all too? We actually had some people say, hey, we didn't even know that they listened in, and they're like, yeah, we secretly listen. So what's up to y'all too? Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat with Ron. Just the fact that you're taking time out of your busy lives and just spending it with us, just to kind of see what we got on our minds and hearts. Hey, much gratitude, but I appreciate it. But yeah, man, I can't remember what topic that was either we was talking about, but I remember it was like, wait a minute, Ron, I don't know if I feel the same way. And I can remember too, that was I was like, dang, I think this is like the first time we really disagreed. Disagreed on a portion, and it was kind of funny.
And I think when we when you have a discussion about the heart, I think the things that we know are obviously your heart is a muscle in your body that pumps blood to all the the important vital organs in your body, all these things that your heart does for you. We recognize it when things happen in our lives where we're scared or we're anxious or we have love or other things that make our heart seem to either harder or slow down, or all these things that is more of a physical feeling, but also there's that experience of some connection for me with my feelings and how I express myself and where I feel the center of my kind of emotional connection to others is. So Cedric, I'm interested when you kind of, obviously we have the similarities as far as our heart being an organ and doing these wonderful mechanical things for us to live our lives. How do you connect emotionally? If you do, how do you connect emotionally to your heart? And what other functions of your heart do you feel that it provides you?
Man, I'm probably finna give you a crazy answer. And I'm thinking like, man, maybe a few years ago it'll been totally different, but I don't. um, it's one of those things that evolve, like with the muscle. Like I don't necessarily connect with it other than knowing what its purpose is. You know, it's not like it's weird. Like I don't feel anything in here
Mm-hmm.
per se when it comes to emotions or anything, if that makes sense. Because to me, it's like like what I consider to be my heart is my mind, you know.
To your heart.
And
Okay. That's,
yeah,
yeah.
because it, and I'll give you two quick ways how it's processing in my mind, right? So like when we talk about emotions and anger or whatever, empathy, sympathy, any of that stuff, right? I can just kind of think back, like just take a man in the military, right? And now some of them have become killers, right?
Mhm.
And there's nothing really going on inside this chest other than it's either beating fast or slow at that point. But it's all about how we process it up here and how we feel about different things, right? And on the flip side, you know, on a not so dark side, you know, is when I look at a relationship, right? Because we've all had, you know, you've been married for a long time, but prior to dating, you know, you probably had girls that you dated and liked and maybe loved or whatever, right? And a lot of us have. But you know, you meet this one girl or guy you meet this person, and initially there's nothing in here. It's all up here. Oh, you're thinking I like him and this, and now if it progresses, and then you get to the point where it was a love thing, all that to me, how that all happens is the thoughts that I'm having about this person on a daily basis. Like which creates a warm and see the thought creates a warm and fuzzy, not the other way around. Like the warm and fuzzy doesn't create the thought. It's just like, oh, when I think about Kanisha, it's like, okay, well, in the beginning, you know, I was like, okay, she's a cool girl. In my mind, I want to hang out with her again. And then it's like, okay, man, let's hang out more. And the more time you spending around people, and you're talking or whatever the case, the relationship grows and develops. It's the thoughts that you have about the person, you know, and maybe you can explain, but because to me, I'm like, man, I know like when we go to the events or as a man, it's not a feeling like it's the feeling we would say it's the feeling why a man would be monogamous or whatever, but it's really the thought. You know, you think about what it would do to Danny, and you think about why would I even go there, you know, or it doesn't even cross your mind because you have your love of your life on your mind, if that makes sense.
So then what does love mean to you?
um Love, man, it's ever changing. Um,
We've had this discussion, right?
but
Maybe in a
yeah,
different.
yeah. Respect, a genuine care, um, empathy, sympathy sometimes, and a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking about now is, you know, I'm thinking about in a relationship, but it still goes with people and just an ongoing well-being. You know, like and you know we throw it around, man, the word, but I love people. You know, I love the world, right? But I'm not in love with the world, and the reason I'm not is because I'm not in love with them because I'm not spending much time with them.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? And it's like some people, eh, and it's really vague, and I guess you know a harsh part of it, you know, is like, man, we say we love everybody, but and I guess why I would say, yeah, that is true because I'm thinking about everybody in the whole and their overall well being, and it's just a genuine. I guess the same way I look at me is like, man, I don't want to just hurt myself. I don't want to feel hurt. everything good that I want to feel, I want everybody else to feel that. And that's love to me.
Mhm.
Um, Now, being in love is a little bit different because now I get a deeper portion of you, of who you are. And that's why I say I'm not in love with the world, because I don't really know them and we don't spend a lot of time together.
Mhm.
But when it's Kanisha, on the other hand, you know what I'm saying? It's totally different.
Right. So do you feel that because I feel, I mean, there's different emotions. Some kind of are more on the surface, it seems to be. Others seem to be more deeper, whether they're purposely put, deeper, to protect ourselves, whether it's fear or anger or, some of those emotions that can be scary to bring to the surface and actually express. Um, so you mentioned compassion, you mentioned sympathy. Um, I guess how I experience those, that they seem to come from a much deeper place in my own body, in my own, kind of awareness, um, to where there's, because the mind is, something that we don't quite understand either. I mean, we've got the physical brain, which, thoughts can, manifest from. We have all these thoughts, and they're, kind of walking across and moving across our mind, and we're recognizing those and placing some sort of judgment or interpretation or value or whatever it might be on those thoughts. And then emotions come in, and then you have the physicalness of a heart that responds to, or at least it seems to, physically respond to these emotions, where there's some sort of change in our, kind of how we're able to express ourselves, the actual physical, beating of the heart, when we're kind of in that situation, whether it's, a, sexual situation or a surprise, all those different experiences that allow the heart to respond to it. Um, for me, I guess I feel more of that origin at a deeper level within my heart. And then the reason I guess I say that is because that's where I usually feel the strongest connection to, for a couple of reasons. One, because I've at times had a broken heart because of, childhood challenges with family, and a father that was abusive to alcohol, and, more. And I've told you the story about protecting my heart and some of those things, the physicalness of it, but also the emotional impact of the scars that, I've had from time to time. Um, but I guess just not. I guess it's that unknowing, right? I mean, I think we experience things differently, and I think, the way I experience love, I wouldn't say is different than how you experience love, but, um, where we think it may come from, where is the heart, our heart center. And we hear Eric Nooner talk about, I'm a heart warrior. How does that resonate with the physicalness of the heart being the center versus the heart having some sort of representation of love, because that's what we've been taught. Physically, you look at the heart and you kind of you remember Valentine's Day and all these things that, kind of come into our awareness about what we've been taught and what we think most people agree with on what the function of the heart is. Um, yeah, interesting. Because I think, it's there. I'm sure there's research that would, or even, philosophy or different, ways that people look at that, kind of this conversation we're having, whether it be, the physical heart that's able to, kind of, where we can, develop and experience and share love from, or, is it in the mind? Are these things that we experience something that has maybe some sort of connection, maybe, electronically or within our, kind of overall dynamic system that we operate under as a human? Um, yeah, interesting question. I think it's, again, I don't think there's a right answer or wrong answer. And I think for you, um, you're diving, sounds to me like you're kind of now moving in a direction of sharing more of your emotions, kind of feeling that now connection with Kenesha and having a child together, and some of those things that may have been a little lesser in your awareness in the past. So I was going to ask you, so when you hear or heard Eric talk about, he's a heart warrior, and knowing that you went through, a physical experience with your heart. When I was thinking about talking about this, a question that came up for me, to be quite honest to you, is, are you, thinking about that whole experience with your heart scare and how that's contributed at all to how the functionality of your heart, if that makes sense? Said, I don't hear you, said.
Oh yeah, a little bit, or non-functionality, I guess, because to me, like I guess like man, now I'm especially after the surgery, I'm really, really set on, it's just it's just a muscle, like there's nothing in me that thinks about that beating thing to feel anything, to move me to feel some type of way, especially after that, because then I guess I could say I'm forever brokenhearted, or all of my emotions are artificial at this point because I have artificial parts in there, right? um but I mean, on a deeper level, it I say I'm more in tune with my heart, but for me is I'm more in tune, like you say, with my awareness and my mind.
Mm-hmm.
um
So,
and this energy, or a soul, that most people, I wouldn't say, but that some people call it a soul. Like now my soul is my heart, it's my being, and now my being is everything, and that's where love and all of that to me comes from. Like
mm-hmm.
it's really nothing physical that manifests, anything like that. To me, it's all the metaphysical, portion of it, or at least that's how I look at it now. But I used to believe well, put your hand over your heart, and making promises, and it's all, to me now it's like, oh, all right, that's cute for show, you know. Um, but it's, what we, again, for me, is it's all about what I think now,
Mm-hmm.
and how I think about people.
So when you experience compassion with others, and you just watch something happen to somebody, like we've seen, at some of the live events, where you actually see somebody go through a transformation, and I know you're a self-proclaimed crybaby. When you experience that, do you feel, so even at that point you don't feel any type of change within your experience with your heart, is what you're saying, correct? You just kind of feel that more in the mind and the soul and some of those other areas that you kind of feel connected to.
Yeah, and I guess because I was missing a portion there, or I mean I do, but to me it's where it initially all happens.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm looking at a person speak, or I'm watching something, and I mean it happens a heck of a lot faster than I can say it. It's almost at the speed of light. It's quick.
Right.
But like I'm listening to somebody and they tell me their story, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, and you feel this person, like a nanosecond before the feeling was a thought. And now to me, that's the thought was the compassion. Because like, man, when I was in the streets, we like a whole lot of time, I'd be like, man, I don't have no love for you. I don't have no love for these people. I would just say, man, I don't have no love in my heart. But that was really like for me, and I can look back now, and it was how I was thinking. Like, I didn't care if I would have shot at you because I wasn't thinking about none of that. It wasn't a feeling. I just wasn't thinking about it.
Right.
So that didn't allow me to feel anything,
Right.
you know? And I guess that's where I'm coming from is like where it all, for me, where it all initiates is what I would call the heart, because then it makes me feel that, you know, those butterflies in my stomach, you know, or that warm and fuzzy, or, you know, it makes the tears cry. You know, it's because of the stuff that I'm thinking about. It's just like, oh my God, oh, that was, oh. And then the waterworks come, or anger. You know, it's just what I'm thinking. Like, I can't believe this, you know. And so to me, that's where I'm coming from on it is like how it all where it initiates for me is what I consider it to be, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. And so when you experience your emotions for the most part, um, do you feel that emotions for the most overall are, um, I wouldn't say shallow, but they're easily accessible for you? Or do you sometimes find like compassion, which in, kind of my experience is more compassion, comes from a heartfelt experience or a heartfelt emotion. So like when compassion comes up for you, is that something in your awareness that is more towards the surface for you in your life, or is it something that takes a lot to allow that to, because it's maybe deeper in your consciousness?
um that's probably one that's, well, there, yeah, a little bit. um Not really though. I mean, like, maybe a year ago it would have been a little different. You know what I'm saying? Because I've evolved now. So that's one I have a lot of compassion now. Um, and it's really like for me, some of those emotions, it's really about the ones that I've developed the most. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still have like anger issues. You know, that's one that I'm constantly working on, because that was one that, man, I've that's been my deal since I was knee high to a duck. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I've always been sort of like an empath, I guess. I've always been very emotional, always. And the anger was just a mask that I put on to hide them, save them, you know, whatever the case may be. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's, you
But
know.
but you don't typically wear your, the whole phrase of, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. Your emotions or feelings aren't necessarily right on the surface. They're at a deeper level, but they're not something that is, for the most part, difficult for you to allow to become more in your awareness. I mean, that's something that sounds like that's evolved over the last year. You be kind of becoming a little bit more connected to who you are, connected to others, kind of realizing, who you are as a man, having changes in your life, all those things that can, cause a reaction, physically as well as emotionally in us. Um, so would you say that there are still times where that you do wear your emotions on your sleeve, where somebody could very easily tell you very clearly, that's how you're feeling? Or is it something, like the emotions of the heart that you feel are a little bit more protected within your awareness?
Man,
Going deep, man. I'm
not
going
so. Yeah, I know.
I'm
um, man,
gonna make you cry tonight, I think.
I don't bullying. No, let me stop. No, I wouldn't say I really wear them on my sleeve. Um, and it's like, man, I guess I'm that flying pink frog. I'm weird, but I embrace it. But what I mean is like, one, I realize I'm very emotional, which to me translates as I do wear my emotions on my heart on my sleeve, as they say.
Mhm.
But I guess what I got really good at was being able to turn that switch on and off. Like some things, and once I turn it off, then it's just a shutdown. And then that sometimes that asshole would come out, you know, or I, something else would come out. Not always just mean, but something else would come out because it was like, oh, I felt some type. And now that and then you'll hear the term, oh, they feel some type of way. I feel some type of way about a lot of stuff sometimes,
Right.
you know. And I guess some of the softer emotions, it's harder for me to tap into on a fly, in the midst of something. I default to some of the dark, being angry or just shutting down. Um, and I guess, for me, it's like now, and not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good thing. It would just be one of those like, well, okay, well, if somebody pissed me off now, I'm just not gonna say nothing because I know I go from 0 to 100 real quick, and if I open my mouth, then dang, I know I always get in trouble. So it's one of those things. But I I feel it intensely though. You know what I'm saying? Like whereas some people might, and it's easy for them to brush off it. A lot of stuff bothers me to my core because it is really right here. I just got really good at hiding it
Right.
or masking it.
Right. So when you were going,
And
so when you were going through, just to kind of change the channel a little bit, when you were going through this experience with the birth of your son, because you were right there in the room, going through, some challenges with, dealing with the doctors, making sure they were doing the right thing. Did you have any type of experience with, um, I guess, experiences with your heart during that? Did you feel any type of um, rapid heartbeat where you were getting excited, things were going to happen, you knew it was getting, or the nervousness before this whole process took place? Did you feel any type of um, change in the dynamics of the physicalness of the heart during that whole experience?
oh hell yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But again, for me, it's like I got to ask myself, why did that happen though? Like, okay, well, why did I start getting nervous, and why was I feeling this warm and fuzzy in my stomach? It was just because he came out, and I'm looking, and I'm like, damn, that's me. Like, that's me. Like, wow, I'm a dad. Just like, man, okay, I hope everything will be all right. And it's this ridiculously speed loop. Like when like when you told me, when you're looking at Anthony, it's just a loop of thoughts. You're just looking like, oh, look at the eyes. Like, damn, I wonder what his eyes gonna look like. Oh, this and oh that. Oh, look at the little toes. Look at this. Look at that. And wow, the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I felt.
Right.
You know, um, because if I just would have looked at him and shut my mind off, then I wouldn't have felt anything. Because now I'm being cold and callous. It's when I stop thinking. To me, because as long as I could, because I look and I think about you as my brother, but if I don't think about it, then you can do some crazy things that wouldn't be loving or not even feel at all because I'm not thinking. I'm shutting my mind down,
Right.
and then And it's in the same way, like, you know, in the gang world, in the military, and that's what they train you to do, is be able to shut it all off in your mind so you don't feel, so you can do.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of relive what you just mentioned about my son and I, and I don't know how much. I don't know really, to be honest with you. I don't know how many thoughts were going through my mind at that time. I seem to recall that it was just more just being in awe of just the energy that was going back and forth between our contact, you know, and looking into each other's eyes. Um, Probably one of the, you know, other than my wife, I mean, just the most connected I felt heart to heart with an individual. Just, you know, knowing that that's something that I uh, contributed to bringing into this world. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a believer like you in just how powerful the mind is. Um, yeah, I think this is just very interesting to kind of explore just, you know, the whole idea of where, you know, where our thoughts go, where the energy goes, where, you know, what functions, you know, are different, the parts, and what is our, are there other functions of our brain that we don't necessarily tap into? Because, you know, obviously research continues to go on within, you know, humans to really dive deeper into the consciousness and unconsciousness of our lives. And there's so much still left to learn, and not knowing where, you know, some of these, where do the thoughts lie, right? Where do these thoughts that come in and out of our awareness, you know, where do they, because we can sometimes, you know, do a better job in our life of just letting them kind of move through, you know, like clouds in the sky. But um, where do they initiate from? You know, where do they, you know, all these questions.
Right.
What is our, you know, I remember a buddy of mine, we used to sit outside and in our earlier, crazier time of our life, and um, we just ask that question, you know, why are we here? You know, just, you know, what is this all about? And I think, you know, obviously there's lots of, you know, answers to those questions based on our own beliefs and our own experiences and all those things that, you know, that we are able to really feel a little bit more connected to. But it's that whole uncertainty. That's really even more powerful than feeling like even knowing a thing. It's like that, you know, just being open to different interpretations or different, you know, ideas on what we're capable of through our heart, through our mind, through our brain, through our body, you know, through all these different functions that we, you know, carry out on a regular basis. Um, Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And we're just two ordinary men.
Right. Right. Well,
Yeah.
because you know, I was thinking, man, like when you're talking, I was just like, wow. Um, and it made me think about some of a verse, and I can't really get it all the way, but it was like, so does a man thinketh, so as a man thinketh, so does a man doeth, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, that's
So when I
pretty
say,
interesting.
like I lead with my heart, how does that make you? What is that? How do you interpret that?
You you lead with the overall goodness or the overall well-being and openness of everything and everybody.
So is it?
And that's, it's a thought, like, to me, like, it's not necessarily a feeling, it's a way that it's a mindset that you're in when you're doing something.
Right.
And by continuing in that path of whatever mindset you're in will either grow or lessen the more you're in it or not in it. You know, like, if you're pissed off and you start telling people, if it's a room full of people, and that's how I look at that statement. Like it goes either way. It's just like an energy, but it's all what comes from the thought. The thought creates it. Um, if you're pissed off and other people get pissed off, and now it's just a room full of pissed off people, and then you're gonna remain in that anger, right? But if you and I remember like one of my great teachers, man, Helen Hall, like man, I had the worst temper ever. I'd be pissed off. And she knew that I would stay there, like to the point, like sometimes my nose would start bleeding. I'm so pissed off because it's just in my head. I'm just thinking about all this pissed off stuff and replaying the situation. And she knew I love her to death, man. She knew I got to make him laugh, and she'll come up with something to make me laugh and get me on a different thought pattern. And now I was getting out of anger, and then I'm just into a normal state, or now I'm in a happy state, because now I'm just being a class clown again, and now I'm happy. But it's because I'm thinking happy thoughts. It's almost like Peter Pan. You know what I'm saying? Think happy thoughts, think happy thoughts. But if I think mad thoughts, then I'm going to give mad things, and I'm going to feel mad, or I'm going to feel compassion because I'm thinking about being compassionate. And that's how I look at it now, is especially when I look back over, over my military time, and especially in the gang life, it was literally what I was thinking. And that's
I was going to ask you another question about you've heard of Eckhart Tolle?
oh yeah, he's man, that dude deep.
So he made mention that, like, I think what he said was like 95% of our thoughts aren't ours.
hmm
They're they're based on a conditioning or what we've been told from others. So I'm just wondering, knowing that, if that idea resonates with you, knowing that 5% or less of our thoughts are actually ours, because you make mention about most of how we experience life is through our thoughts. How does that? Knowing that that's how he feels, and maybe that's not how you feel. How does that impact kind of how you have developed your own philosophy on what the heart is able to, or what it does or does not contribute to our emotions and our experience? Knowing that 5%, if we're looking at our thoughts as being very predominant in how we live our lives, and 95% of our thoughts aren't ours, then how do you, if you were to believe that, how does that fit into how you experience your heart?
Yeah, because then it would almost be like, well, man, you're not loving because it's or most of what you're doing is from somebody else.
Right. And I
Uh,
don't. I mean, I'm just kind of putting out
um,
a thought that came from a pretty mindful person, and I don't know
oh
if
yeah,
I believe that or don't believe it. It seems to be, I guess if you really sat down and thought more about your thoughts and wrote down what your thoughts are, they're probably either generic thoughts that are just an accepted way of looking at things because it is what it is, or that's what we've been taught from back in time when that first thought came up, like that's a dog. Yes, it's going to be a dog for the rest of our life. I don't need to think any differently because that dog is a dog. But that's what we've been told, right? We were taught that. We didn't come up with that on our own, that that's a dog. That just came to my awareness that that's a dog. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
but and
Go ahead.
that's how I kind of look at it though. Is like it's almost like okay, yeah, you're right, but that's who or how we are just as humans. And not saying that it's right or wrong, but it just is. It's like, yeah, you're right, but it's I mean, I can't do anything about it because or actually I can. What I can try to do is tap, and I think that's where the stronger emotions lie in, or the good emotions. I can't really find the right word for it, man. This is interesting. Um, dealing with that other 5% would be trying to learn how to tap into it. And I think the more we tap into it, the deeper those emotions grow, because now it's purer thoughts because it's ours.
Right.
And that's coming from the true essence of who we are.
Right.
And then that's because that other 5% is where the heart is. But it's still going, but to me, it's still based on the thought. It's that 5%. But I really need to now, and it's like being mindful. Um, because there's so many different reasons around being mindful. Um, I want to serve and help people. Why do I want to do that? And where did that even come from? And now is because we tap into that other 5%, and then it creates a different feeling in us because we're thinking from a truer us. And I mean, yeah, he's totally right. I remember listening to that and I was like, uh-oh, hold on. I had to kind of rewind it a couple times, like, what? And I'm like, all right, yeah, bet. But the more I work to try and come up with my own thought,
Right.
which comes in now, that's where, to me, I'm meditating and I'm being aware. And when I'm dealing with people, I'm being present. So I'm calming my mind from the BS that's out there so I can try my hardest to tap into that other 5%. So every being part of me can be there
Right.
and be present. And so I can truly feel some of these things. And that's why, like, some of the anger or other things that we feel are, we do them out of place. We'll be like, man, that's out of order. Or you might feel it wrong, heightened anger, because yeah, that's coming from programming that you're on that 97% side or that 95% side.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I think over here, the less mad I am throughout my day and the less of an asshole I am to people, because now I'm thinking or trying to grab a hold and be. And honestly, to me, it's like just being mindful and aware and present.
Right. Wow. Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
I knew
Like,
this
damn.
was worthy of a conversation. And yeah, I think it's just, again, I think this to me is just, I mean, what else could we be doing right now, as especially as men? We could be watching the finals are on right now, experiencing
Oh,
that.
are they?
We could be out, doing something destructive to our life. We could be, sitting, being miserable in our own existence. And that's why I just truly value this space that we create for us to share in this conversation. And so much more to come. I mean, I think knowing that this has been such a short journey for us together, and knowing that there's just, it's like peeling back the onion, right? These areas that we've already touched upon that evolve in our life, and how we might reframe how we look at things as we move forward in our own journey, and the topics that we haven't talked about yet that we're just kind of, that are still begging to be discussed, but they're either, it's not the right time, or they haven't become the predominant kind of topic that we feel is resonating with us at this time. Probably going to deal with death again, right, in our life, with father, mother, whatever it might be. And but I just so value your kind of who you are, Cedric, just this whole conversation, your amazing family, the listeners, just allowing us to create a space where we can be authentic, real men that aren't in judgment of each other, where, we give each other the opportunity to share, we respect, we really allow for us to grow individually and as friends. I mean, I think that's something we've really placed a high value on, is our willingness to push, support, stretch, love, and really experience each other through this channel. And I think that's hopefully what resonates with those that are able to listen in and learn something from. So I know we've said this many, many times, but I feel it's very, for me, heartfelt that we are able to create this space, and knowing that it's going to continue for many, many episodes and many, many years to come is just awesome.
Yeah, man, because it's funny, man. Some of our topics, well, one, I like it, just the show in general, but then like this was one I'm like, I'm gonna look tomorrow, wake up, and be like, wow, man, we were just on this, like, for the world to hear. We was talking about the heart and love and all this stuff, man. Like that would have never happened in a million years, and it's kind of cool being able to, now finally be okay with having these types of conversations, and just hoping that it reach somebody out there, just one person, man. I love this space, and because now, it'll be kind of interesting. He might, because I'm just looking at him and I'm like, man, he'll probably come back and look at this and be like, man, Daddy crazy, because he might feel a different type of way, be like, Pops, what you talking about? And some of the other topics, man. So like
we're creating opportunities for our children to always know at this stage of our life, and as we move forward, what our thoughts, ideas, and experiences have been, and how they've shaped us as men. And I think that's a great place for us to continue our growth. And for you listeners, again, this is an opportunity for you to look at your life and these topics we bring up. Have conversations with your loved ones. Have conversations with authentic people in your life. It doesn't have to be you coming onto our channel and experiencing us, that which is possible, but maybe this just encourages you to have deeper conversations with people that are important to you in your life, and create that space for understanding and lack of no judgment, and just opportunity to really be yourself, and not feel that you're not accepted, not feel that you can't have a difference of opinion, yet end the conversation with, that's interesting that you feel that way. Those are all good points. I see what you're saying, and based on your experiences and how you have processed that is an amazing way to look at that.
Yeah, and I mean vice versa, and that's the cool part, man. Yeah, guys, just yeah, man, that was the greatest thing ever. Like, yeah, just talk to somebody about it, because now I'm starting to believe like that's where a lot of conversation invokes change.
Right.
Especially if it's a topic you or an area that you want to change or see differently. Talk about it. And then and then you might talk to somebody, and it might be because Ron feels and I think so, and you're like, all right, that's interesting. You feel that, and that's kind of cool. All right,
And
and just
there's really no need to hold on to things so tightly in our life, because then if we figure out something different, then it's not such a shift in our life. It's more, it's like, maybe I'm not right. Maybe everything that we experience is all in our thoughts, and the heart has no functionality to that, but I'm okay with not necessarily looking at that's how I look at it. I'm okay with, having, and I think that's what I encourage each and every one of you, is to just be accepting of individuals. Don't judge people. Don't, if it's not a conversation you want to have because they have such a strong opinion that's completely opposite of yours, then maybe don't have that conversation. But I think there's lots of opportunities to have conversations with those that mean a lot to you, that can create a much stronger bond and connection with those that may have a difference in opinion, a different experience. So with that, our amazing audience, we are going to bid our adieu. So I'm just going to do one more last thanks, and a namaste to every one of you.
Thank you guys. Namaste. I love y'all. Until next time.
And a namaste to my buddy there, Messiah.
Say namaste. He's hiccuping.
All right, buddy. Have a great evening.
All right, you too, man.
All right.
Good night, y'all.
You too.